Have you ever wondered what plants mealybugs specifically tend to be attracted to? Let's have a look at the top 5 plants that in my experience have been like a magnet for mealybugs. Hi, my name is Memo, this is my channel, Houseplantygoodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion. You might be able to see some of it behind me, it's tropical houseplants. So today's topic actually was a suggestion from one of you lovely people actually, and it was somebody that actually said, you know what, maybe try doing a top 5 favorite plants from a pest's point of view. So you are a mealybug, which ones would you be going for based on experiences that I've had in my space with my plants? And I'm just like, that is actually kind of a really good idea. Specific plants that, at least from what I've seen, tend to be like magnets for specific pests. In this video, it will be mealybugs. If you like this, by the way, as a concept, do let me know, and I can do spider mites and thrips and kind of I've never had scale, so I can't really tell you about scale, and I've had some whitefly, so I can do whitefly. We can do like fungus gnats as well, so yeah, there are plenty of pests that we can kind of do top 5s of, basically. Let's dive into the first plant, shall we? When I say plants, I am going to do a whole family of plants in this. Can you guess what my number 1 is going to be, basically? And by the way, these are not in any particular order in terms of like importance, but Hoyas. I can imagine a few of you might be twitching whilst watching this video somewhere in the back. So yes, Hoyas, generally speaking, will be super attractive to mealybugs. Have I experienced any one specific Hoya that's more attractive to mealybugs than others? In my humble opinion, no. They are all equally delicious to mealybugs. There might be some slight fluctuations, but a lot of them, any Hoya out there will have the risk of getting something like mealybug. Somebody on another video made a comment that was very accurate, actually, that if you've got quite a bit of air movement around the specific plants, in this case Hoyas, you might get lower levels of mealybugs because they don't like the air movement. This can be true. It could also mean that depending on how much those Hoyas are getting flopped around by something like a fan or something with constant air movement moving around, it might then stress them out enough that they're not growing particularly tall. And if they get stressed, they might get other bugs. So there is that to remember. With Hoyas as well, a lot of the times, again, I've not experienced this, shockingly actually, but Hoyas are one of the biggest culprits for also getting soil mealybugs. So mealybugs within the soil eating away at the roots. And if anybody's grown Hoyas for long enough, they will know that their roots are really insubstantial comparative to the volume of plant at the top. And they are very slow growing roots. So if you've got mealybugs that are destroying half of your roots, guess what's going to happen? Half of your foliage is going to like disappear. And even if you don't have mealybugs at the top, you're just like, what is happening? And then you take it out of the soil or whatever growing media it is, and it's infested with mealybugs in the roots. That would be why. And then you need to deal with that. And that could present its own set of challenges, because trying to get soil mealybugs out of something as fragile and small as Hoya roots could mean that by trying to remove them off there, you end up damaging even more roots. So, but yes, Hoyas. It would have been a nice thing a few years back when people were really kind of not pushing Hoyas onto everybody, but kind of going, look at Hoya, and everybody gets really excited, and they're just like, it's relatively easy, and it doesn't need like high levels of humidity always, and its light needs not that ridiculous, and all of these things. If somebody had told all of us back then, and it's kind of like, a little side note though, all the mealybugs in the world will love your Hoyas and you will constantly be fighting them off. Some people must have made other decisions. To all the Hoya heads, I do apologize. But I would assume that quite a few of you might actually agree with me. It's just, if you love your Hoyas, it just means that it's a part of what you do, is you also check for mealybugs all the time and treat for mealybugs all the time, basically. But there is things that you need to remember. So for instance, let me grab a Hoya. So for instance, something as intricate as this Hoya polynura is a pain in the bum to deal with mealybugs. And it is because there are so many nooks and crannies, because very rarely will you ever see mealybugs right there, like in your face and kind of really obvious. And if you're seeing mealybugs in your face, check the rest of the plants, because the problem might be a lot bigger than you think it is, because there's probably a whole colony of them living behind things that you can't see, and it's become so overly populated back there that they're coming to the front, because they generally will hide. If they're not hiding, it means they don't have the space to hide anymore. Slightly more worrying. But yeah, it's being aware of plants, Hoyas specifically, that have got a lot of nooks and crannies, and not all of them do. I am thinking of the extreme example, which I don't have anymore, because guess what? I got so sick and tired of dealing with mealybugs. The Hoya compactor, or the Hindu rope, I think the one that has got an awful lots of nooks and crannies. If you get a mealybug infestation in that and you miss it, which is very easy because the leaves are so crinkled that there might be whole colonies of them living inside each one of the leaves, you're kind of dealing with problems there. And if that's near any other plants or any other Hoyas, you're going to know about it, because those mealybugs are going to root march over to other plants. So be aware that Hoyas are a delicacy for a lot of mealybugs. This is one that might surprise you, and I would bring this down, but I think there's too many things growing around it. There is one there. I don't think you might be able to see. Oh, there is a leaf of one here, which, shocking, it's got mealybugs on it. It might seem like green at the moment, but this and this, which is a propagate of this, is the Philodendron Florida Ghost. And I don't know if I'm the only one with this, and I apologize in advance if I am the only one with this. If you've also got a Florida Ghost that does struggle quite frequently with mealybugs, do let us know down below. But basically, this is my top 5. Mealybugs love my Philodendron Florida Ghost. They also love the Philodendron pedatum. So, and I think those are genetically kind of linked in one way or another. I don't know if the Philodendron Florida Ghost is further down the line a hybrid from originally some form of cross with a pedatum. I think it probably is, because the leaf structure is way too similar. But yeah, mealybugs love this, specifically being underneath. Usually it will be in the nooks and crannies where the leaf and the petiole connects, behind the leaves, as you would normally find. But also, and it's quite interesting because, and I don't know whether or not this will come up on the screen, possibly. Can you see that little bit of like moisture on there? I don't know why I did that, that's sticking out. Extrafloral nectaries happen a lot on both my Philodendron Florida Ghost and my pedatum. And normally, a lot of the times when I get extrafloral nectaries, for a lot of other pests, it will be a deterrent, basically, because remember, we've had this in other videos where they're essentially the cavalry to bring in the ants. It doesn't happen in this space. It would probably do in nature, but actually, no, this is probably what makes sense, because mealybugs are pests that survive. They're basically sap suckers. They will attach to the plant and pull out like sugary sap from usually the stems or around the leaves. Usually it's new growth. Not always, because I have also found it on mature growth as well. But it is harder for them when it's mature growth, because it's harder for them to kind of tap in, at least from what I would imagine, to pull out that sap. So something like this, having that level of extrafloral nectaries, in this situation and in most household situations where there aren't that many ants to protect the plant, because they're also using the extrafloral nectaries, but the plant is giving as much as it can give at that point, could also be something that's like, oh, look, it's a red flag to a bull for mealybugs. So they're just like, all you can eat buffet over here. Look at the sugary goodness that I am producing, and you can tap into me and keep eating to your heart's content. But yeah, the Philodendron Florida Ghost and the pedatum, both plants that have to be in the mealybug top 5 just purely because of the sheer amount of times that I've experienced mealybugs on there. They are treatable, I will say. They aren't plants that have ever experienced a huge infestation with them. Granted, I do catch it quite early on, but yeah, they are ones that I know for a fact. And by this point, I've done this for enough years and I've dealt with mealybugs for enough years to know which plants I need to be looking at. The next plant isn't one that necessarily a lot of people will have, as far as I'm aware. Some people might be getting more into this plant, but this is the Anthurium arisaemoides. And I'm trying to do this without dropping all of the pond down below. But the reason I wanted to show you this plant is I wanted you to see the leaves. So corrugated leaves is going to always be problematic. This is the poster child of something that I've experienced. Does get quite a few mealybugs in my space. Again, is it one that tends to like go crazy and then I can't handle it? No, but this and every other plant that I have that has got that corrugated texture in it, guess what it does? It creates an awful lot of nooks and crannies that really baby mealybugs can go in, tap in and go, I'm here for the winter. I'm going to be chewing on this for as long as I possibly can. And then you start getting more and more of them. And I'm already kind of like removing mealybugs off the back of this. That is going to be something you're going to need to remember. Plants like this that have got that corrugated texture, those kind of peaks and troughs, and again, you can see a theme throughout this video, is a lot of these plants that have got these kind of nooks and crannies are going to be kind of like a magnet for some of these mealybugs because it gives them the sap that they want. This mealybugs generally won't attack the more mature leaves on this because they are quite hard, because it is an Anthurium. But when there's an emerging leaf, it's like an all-you-can-eat buffet. It's just like, yes, attack this because it's got all the nooks and crannies, but it's nice and soft and squishy and we can like get our teeth into it. Anything like that, especially at earlier stages, because a lot of the times most of these corrugated, more textured leaved plants, they tend to, at least in my experience, they tend to be a bit more leathery and a bit harder kind of foliage-wise. They're a bit more succulent, which means that at the stage where the leaf has matured, it's less likely that you're going to see mealybugs on it. However, it does mean that when they are emerging, when they are still soft, that is the time that you really need to have like beady eyes on it and just kind of go, ooh, am I seeing it? Let's deal with it. Because otherwise what you'll get is younger foliage will get damaged super quickly and you will see the damage that the mealybugs are causing when it matures. Even if it's less desirable than to the mealybugs, the damage has already been done. Next one on the list, and this is one that a lot of people talk about, the spider mite issue with it. But in my experience, by far, one of the biggest attractants to mealybugs, verrucosum, Philodendron verrucosum. So you're not only dealing with mealybugs, not only dealing with spider mites on this one, you're also dealing with mealybugs. And the problem with this one is the leaves are so thin that they are getting attacked by the spider mites. And then when you do, and if you do get mealybugs on yours, the mealybugs I find will predominantly be in a place of the plant that I never thought they would be, which is the fuzzy petioles. Those kind of hairy textured petioles, which part of the reason why there is that pubescence, the pubescence essentially is that fuzz on the petioles, part of what at least scientists are thinking it's there for is to be a mechanical or a physical repellent for pests to attack. And the reason why I'm saying it did it on the verrucosum, it's also done it on my serpents, and the serpents have got even hairier ones, and I'm just like, you have got to be kidding me. But they will get in there because again it creates those nooks and crannies that they really not dislike, they actually like it because they can go in and hide. I would imagine, and actually thinking of it, any of my plants that have got pubescence but it's more fine hair-like structure and it's completely covered in the fuzz, that's different. And mealybugs generally, I find, will not go onto those plants. But the type of structure, and I'll hopefully find a picture and add it here. If not, I'll add one from my Philodendron serpents, is very similar, just slightly hairier. It creates a slightly wider spaces between those kind of hair-like structures, which means that mealybugs of all sizes will go and just kind of sit there and go, I am a mealybug in a jungle of fuzzy petioles. It's fine. And again, it creates that protection around it. And the problem is a lot of the times trying to deal with the mealybugs in there for a lot of people that might just be spraying with like something like rubbing alcohol and then using like a Q-tip or something to scoop them out, you are then by default, a lot of the times these hair-like structures can be quite fragile. You're kind of destroying them as you're taking it off. So it's a bit like, I don't know why I bother anymore. And yes, the reality is for people that have been here for a while know that I generally did not have the best time with my verrucosum and begrudgingly said I might get another one soon, but I really don't want to do it. The serpents hasn't been that bad, and I'm still enjoying that plant enough that I don't mind. But yeah, it is one of those things that just be aware that sometimes the mealybugs will go for those fuzzy petioles as long as they are the correct type. And coming into the last one on the list, which is the Queen Anthurium. And not just the Queen Anthurium, I will say this about the melanochrysum at times as well, and any plant really that is velvety. Because again, with the velvety plants and the verrucosum theoretically could fall into that category as well, there's a slight velvetiness as well to that. Not only are you dealing with spider mites, which tend to like really love a velvety plant, but mealybugs as well, I will find. Generally not on the foliage, but they will be usually behind the leaves where you would usually find them for most plants, but it's definitely going to be one that you're not necessarily, because they all have got this fame and reputation about them going, yeah, the spider mites really love the like velvety leaves. People are much more aware and are looking for the spider mites, but less so with the mealybugs. I would say, just to stress you out a tiny bit more, check for mealybugs as well. Because they will tend to gravitate towards it. And again, the people that have been here for a while know that I can talk from at least a severe level of experience, because I've been struggling with mealybugs in this space ever since I moved in here, basically, which is almost 3 years ago now. So if there's this many mealybugs around and not every single one of my plants has got it, that's the important thing. Not every single one of my plant in this space has got mealybugs. At this point, I've got it manageable. But at this point, I also know that there are certain plants that it doesn't matter what I do with them in terms of like dealing with the mealybugs. And even when I think the infestation is gone, they will always find a way back to it. So, at least in my experience, the plants that I've mentioned within this video are the ones that are the top 5 for mealybugs. And it might not just be specific to the specific species of plant, but it could just be certain structures like what we were talking about before, the textured leaves, the velvety leaves, pubescence and the petioles. Things like this, at least in my experience, tend to be a favorite when it comes to the mealybugs. So there's certain things that you could potentially do is if you do have these plants, keep an eye for it, basically. Be aware that it's there. Always have whatever your preferred treatment is for mealybugs. I also am crystal clearly aware that a lot of people out there get icked out massively by mealybugs specifically. It's really interesting. I don't mind them too much, because they are those kind of bugs that I'm just going to take like my finger and just squish them, and it's highly satisfying. What ekes me out is spider mites, because I can literally, the moment that I see spider mites, I start like itching and just going, oh, it's crawling all over me. I don't have an issue with spiders, but like mites, they are too reminiscent to me to like lice, basically, that I'm just like, no. Thrips the same. No, just a hard pass. Mealybugs at this point as well, they're like white and fluffy and slow moving. So there is that in their favor, I guess. I know it's not for everybody. But yeah, there's certain things like the plants that I was talking about, it's a good idea to kind of keep an eye out for and see what you need to do. I would be very curious, and this is more of a question to all of you now. Has anybody had success with predatory insects for mealybugs? Because I have tried everything under the sun. I have tried I'm not going to remember the names. I will see if I can put them here. The predators for the mealybugs in both their larval form, which is annoying for me because they look very similar to mealybugs. They just move a lot faster than mealybugs will do. And their adult stage, which is more like, it looks a bit like a ladybird basically, but dark if I'm not mistaken. They did bupkis, which is hugely infuriating because in terms of natural pest management, nematodes for fungus gnats, I swear by, hands down, the best way to deal with fungus gnats. Same thing goes with predator satchels for both spider mites, and the mites that will go for thrips also work like a charm for me. The mealybug ones, because everybody's just like, literally, these are your options. It's those, the larval stage of that specific bug, I think it might be 1 or 2 bugs, and the mature stage, and that is it. I haven't got it to work. It might be my environment, it might be, it's just not conducive for them to be around. But, and also half the issue that I have with this, and it's just a bit like, they look so similar to the mealybugs that I'm just like, I don't know if I don't have mealybugs anymore, because I've still got white fluffy things, which could be the predators, or it could be the mealybugs. I don't know if it's working. Hopefully the lovely scientists out there, or the people that deal with natural predation for pests like this, can maybe give us another option, at least 1 or 2 other options of things that we can play around with, because thrips have got multiple predators, spider mites I think have got multiple predators. Mealybugs seem to be the one thing that doesn't. The really interesting thing, after having looked at it for a long period of time, for commercial growers, interestingly, I don't think they panic as much as we do in the kind of houseplant world about thrips or even spider mites. They are trying to avoid mealybugs like the plague. And I think I get why, basically. Because when you've got them, you kind of got them and they're not going anywhere, basically. Granted, they're not going to do the most amount of damage, at least I find, if you stay on top of it, but they are annoying one way or another. But I have probably prattled on for far too long. Let me know if you enjoyed this as a concept for a video, and I can do it on other pest types. And if you do want me to do it on other pest types, which video do you want next? But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon. And I truly, truly hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.